Hello, my friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family. Good morning, everybody. I hope everybody is doing well out there.
Hi, everybody. Glad to check in today. How's everybody doing?
I see Rune Fingers says it's time to bug out. I stopped going to work on my way to my spot. So, it's interesting. There's a lot of stuff going on, and I saw some interesting videos. WSO Steve, he's a good friend, really good guy. He was looking at some the ancient paintings and stuff we've been talking about. Pretty cool stuff. BP Earthwatch was talking about a tsunami that apparently was caused by a comet way back, and this was in the Pacific, and we'll touch on that as well. One of the most interesting things, and so Joffrey reached out to me and said, hey, NETC is out. They're offline, which is true. And so Cindy's got some computer skills she was using, and she could actually see how many computers they have there and all that type of stuff. And, they are offline.
There's a lot. There's like 520 some odd thousand computers or IP addresses that they lose or they use wherever this is. I think it's in Seattle. That's where they unplugged it.
So we haven't been able to bring up, and we've been talking obviously about the radiation spikes, and so we haven't been able to get it up for whatever reason. But it's curious. Yeah, I know Blue Kool-Aid was running with this too, as we have been. So it makes you wonder, if there's something up there, just too many people all of a sudden, slamming it and being curious.
Yeah, and the other websites that we tried to look at that might have the similar information, you can't really read them.
Well, they're not as easy to read, that's for sure. So, we're doing some research now. EPA here has their own site as well, and so taking a look at Reno where it was elevated, there appears to be a spike here. Now, not as easy to read as the other site, NETC, and then there's some real-time monitoring. There's a lot offline. I don't know if this is typical. Look at this. Look at all. It looks like more than half of them are offline, and so this is realtime.safecast.org. And again, monitoring, of, radiation. So it's interesting that I would say at least 50% of these are offline. It looks like it might even be more. And then there's another site over here. And again, the other one was way more user-friendly. As I lose my voice here.
Yeah, the other one was super user-friendly because all you needed to do was wave your mouse over it and it would show up and give you the numbers. And it's really curious how we were looking at it for the last 2 days, and now suddenly we can't get to that one, but we can get to these other crummy ones where you can't really read anything. It does give you minimal information, but it's not animated. It's not cute. And, I ran a trace route on that netc.com, and it is just really strange how it stopped at such a huge block of IP addresses. Usually that's indicative of a big company, and they shouldn't be down.
So make of it what you will, guys. Maybe it's just too much of us looking at the same time. Like Joffrey says, too many people paying attention. And good morning, guys. Good morning. Karen says, radiation elevated in El Paso. It was up in El Paso. It was up in Reno. It was up in many locations that we saw. And Deeper Look says, as the magnetic field continues to weaken, cosmic rays and radiation are increasing. So we do know. Radioactive rain in Prescott, Arizona. Hope not. Does anybody have information on Prescott there? Marla says it's probably no coincidence that the satellite imagery went down. Yeah, it's pretty interesting because, we've been paying attention to it now, for 3 or 4 days. J.R. Prescott lives in Prescott as well. Nice area too. Really love that area over there towards Sedona and Flagstaff. It's all beautiful. Anyone experiencing extreme dizziness and feeling off this morning in the West Coast?
I went through that extreme dizziness for like a year or more. It's just now starting to settle down. Energy work, QiGong, a lot of meditation. It'll pass. I'm so sorry you're feeling that way. I think it's ascension symptoms.
I keep getting this term and hearing a lot of people talk about life in the fishbowl. It is like we're in a fishbowl. Our reality is so much different, I think, than most people realize. And there's just this evidence that goes back through time that things are not what they appear to see. Are we living in a Truman show also? Yeah, for one, like Stephanie's talking about being exhausted. Oh, wow. Vereen says losing more hair than I usually do the past few weeks. Yeah, we were talking about that as well. That's been something that it seems like a lot of people are going through.
Yeah, I think hair thinning is also part of the ascension symptoms. Sometimes it's your hormones if you're not eating well, and if heavy metal could cause it.
Yeah. Heavy metal toxicity, radiation, obviously. There's different hormonal changes. Seems like a ton of people are not sleeping well, and usually I sleep pretty well, but it seems like I'm waking up constantly. And last night I had another one of those very vivid experiences of, I believe, seeing an ET on the astral realm. It wasn't really physically here in my room or anything like that, but at the same time it was really curious. It was a real tall long neck one again. I think we are really monitored, and I think our reality is far, far crazier and wild than we think.
It is. When you were showing me those pictures, that's the first thing I thought is like, oh my God, are we in a giant fishbowl? And is this plasma stuff around us more like water where things could easily fly?
Right. And so Vereen says waking up between 3 and 4. That seems to be really common. It seems like a lot of us are waking up between 3 and 4 every night.
I think that also has to do with our sensitivity to the atmosphere. I'm not sure exactly what I've heard. Something happens around 3 a.m.
Hey, Steve. We see this is that psychic connection. We have WSO in the house, and I was just talking about you this morning, watching your video on all the wild, crazy things that were seen in the 1500s. I did a few videos a couple weeks ago looking at the woodcuts that are showing like this UFO type thing in the sky, a beam of light coming down, and it's a depiction of the Virgin Mary, with the angel Gabriel, and it happens to be sending energy through her crown chakra. It's just crazy stuff that's out there. It's so good to see you, brother.
Yeah, it is. They have all these really old pictures, but that's the only way they could really get things on canvas. They had to put it on canvas, so that they really put down what they saw the best that they could, because they couldn't really snap a picture, so that's the best way they had to document it.
Yeah, so again, our reality is so crazy, and like Steve was talking about, are we seeing the same things that they saw back then? And maybe these cycles are even far closer together than we think. We've been talking about like 12,000 year cycles, like Douglas Vogt talks about at Diehold Foundation. And, we don't really know. I mean, all this mud flood stuff coming up. Yeah, we definitely have amnesia, so to speak. Maybe things happen a lot closer together than we think. With the whole mud flood thing, if you guys have done any research on it, 1812 is an interesting year that they bring up with that as well. I saw Soul Reviver was here, and I know he's done some research. I didn't see Dave Lewis yet, but Dave was doing research for me. Okay, so Steve says he's in a 500-year cycle thinking, yeah, I could see that, somewhere in that frame. It's pretty wild. If you guys didn't see some of the depictions, let's see if we jump over here. So this is the Asperger Wunderzeichenbuch.
You sure you got that right?
Yeah, right. The Book of Miracles, basically, it translates to. And so German language writing from basically the 1500s. It's pretty cool. There's some wild things in there. And, one of the things I've said before to you guys, when we talk about like the Bible prophecies and we're living in the last days, hey, Earth Aid concert, good to see you as well. When were we not living in the last days, right? Yeah, right. Say that 3 times fast. It's almost like I think we could look at almost any time period and be thinking we are living in the last days, right? If we look at like Matthew 24, you will hear of wars and rumors of wars. Well, there's always been wars as far as we know, and rumors of wars. And, maybe there was always these signs in the sky too. Yeah, I think we got to rethink everything in so many ways. I think we are starting to rethink everything. Like this picture here. Now, remember we were showing those just this week. We were showing those straight UFOs, right? And there was one over the Air Force Base that was moving slowly and then kind of turning. And there was another one that was filmed. Gosh, I forget where the other one was filmed as well. And again, clear, very, very clear, very long. Now, these have been associated with the reptilians. The cigar-shaped UFOs, which that Oumuamua was the same sort of shape as well, the interstellar traveler. So what are we seeing with this? And, obviously this is interesting as well. So, we're seeing a lot of similar things that we're seeing a long time ago. And, Steve was talking about this as well. And so this thing was all gray and hairy with a bearded man's head, 4 feet, and sharp claws, caught by the bishop's huntsman in the forest of Salzburg. Taken to the court, but didn't want to eat or drink and wasted away horribly. And obviously they're taking this for real. These different creatures, different beings. If we are talking about a vibrational thing, does it mean that our cycles are much closer together than we thought as well? There's a lot of weird things out there. It's very, very, very curious to say the least.
It is, and someone in here said that we have to unlearn everything so we can learn the truth. That was Xenopet guy. Yeah, I believe that. We have so much stuff that we need to unlearn so we can relearn and get to the truth. To me, it's important because if we don't know our history, if we don't know where we're from, how do we know where we're going? And it's just really, we're not on a very fair playing field. I think it needs to be, we need some sort of an equalizer, and truth could be our equalizer. And we're not going to find it unless we look for it. And those are our only clues. So it's really fun to get on here with you guys and bat things back and forth and see what you guys think about it too. Yeah, this is one of my favorites too.
Have you seen this one, Steve, before?
It looks like she's getting a download. Imagine that. That's super curious. Yeah, it's just coming down from this guy beaming into her crown chakra, and I felt my crown chakra going off last night too. Makes you wonder, what kind of information are they giving us? What is this? Why did they paint it? What's it about? What's the backstory? So many questions. And then a lot of times, if we find an answer to something, we're left with 50 more questions.
Okay, so there's a peacock, which is interesting, which I didn't really notice previously, and peacock is associated with Isis, the goddess Isis as
Oh.
well. You see all these heavenly beings going about their thing here. We have an angel, this is Gabriel, down here talking to a bishop or something or other. This guy looks perplexed in the background. People are looking out, and, it's just curious. Of course, we have this, and as Cindy said, this golden light coming right through the crown chakra. There's a little depiction of the Holy Spirit as a dove as well. It's pretty wild. Look at that. So what are they trying to say here? What are they saying about our reality and everything? Are we all basically, did we volunteer to come in here and to see how we're going to react? And really, this is all just this huge construct. When Buddha came to his realization that everything is Maya, it's all an illusion. Is this part of what he was talking about?
It just brings me back to Westworld. If anyone has seen Westworld and how these, I don't like to call them robots, they're so human. It kind of talks about how, they play their part and then they die and then they get fixed and they come back, and they do that over and over and over. And pretty soon they start remembering what's happened to them, and they start to get a little convoluted and confused. And I can really draw some serious parallels with that, between them and my own life, because things seem to be a little bit washed across the board. I remember things differently, but I know that these things have occurred. It's really hard to explain.
Yeah, it's definitely very cool, very interesting. Dave Lewis is here now too, and Dave did do quite a bit of research into the mud flood, and if he wants to share anything there that he did find. I know 1812 was an interesting year. We had the War of 1812. Francis Scott Key? You remember? Well, he's the guy that did the Star Spangled Banner. But here, there, that's another 33rd degree Mason. Just another.
Just one more, another 33rd degree. They happen to know all these things. And I heard that Nostradamus was a 33rd degree Mason. Like, all these huge players that have shaped what we know to be our history all just happen to be a 33rd degree, to our knowledge anyway.
Yeah, it goes on. And we talked about the founders of Mormonism and the Jehovah's Witnesses. They're both 33rd degree Masons as well. This planet's been basically, are those people, are they like mid-level management? You know what I mean? Like all your 33rd degree Masons, and even somebody like, the Red Shields that we've been talking about, those big names, they're not the top of the pyramid. I don't think they are the top of the pyramid at all. But because we see them, maybe not outright as much as some others, but they're not the top of the pyramid. You guys are talking about a lot of good stuff in there. Frankincense, boswellia, very good. Clove, most definitely. It's just all a coincidence. Sure, it's all just a coincidence what we got going on here.
Right? That's what they want us to think. Like, it's all a coincidence. And one thing that I do, and I noticed it really seems to help the synchronicities show up more, is if I get a little synchronicity, I'm super, super grateful for that little synchronicity. And I seem to get more and more and more. I'm not sure exactly how this universe works. And that's why I guess we're together talking about it, so we can all try to figure out what's going on and how best to navigate this crazy, crazy world we live in. Because I know you guys go through the same things that I go through, and we're all just sort of like, what the heck is going on? And I feel like we're on the precipice of some kind of breakthrough. I sense it. I feel it. And, I know I can't hang there, just to be curious. I still have to live my life, but I guess this is part of my life, is wondering about this stuff and trying to find answers to these questions. It just seems like the more answers I find, the more questions that show up.
Yeah, speaking of the Vatican, isn't this a little bit disconcerting that you see here in the Vatican? It's definitely kind of disconcerting. It's kind of like, it hits me like Dante's Inferno type stuff. It's pretty twisted, pretty creepy looking. Obviously, the Vatican does have a lot of the secrets because, between the Vatican and the Smithsonian, everything that comes up that might give us clues to what's really going on, our true history and all, it just gets stored away one place or another, or buried at the bottom of an ocean, unfortunately, time and time again. But you know what? There's a lot of smart people coming together here. There's a lot of, great channels coming together. As we were talking about Steve's WSO and so many others that are piecing things together. Like I shared with you, BP Earthwatch was talking today about this event, this one right here. So the destruction of Zhouman and Hongbao's fleets in the Southern Ocean by a tsunami triggered by a comet. Maybe comets aren't at all what we've been taught. Not at all. Maybe it's just a cover-up. This whole thing about comets. Maybe there are some comets that are what they say they are. And of course, we've always been told that they're just, frozen pieces of ice that are just, going along. And maybe that's not the case. Maybe that's a beautiful cover for different types of ships, or maybe in the case of this, maybe even sometimes a weapon, perhaps. You think about this. You remember, I'm thinking about the fleet, the Spanish fleet, when the Spanish fleet was going to fight England, and they got wiped out as well. So maybe our history is still kind of controlled from above. I mean, think about the Greek legends and, praying to Poseidon for calm waters and all. And then there's also, legends going back to the Greek myths of whole fleets being wiped out by the gods again. Very interesting. And this was big, and this caused a major tsunami that's bigger than any that we know of from an earthquake. So that's why, also thinking perhaps it was a comet that came in. And then if we're talking about the Younger Dryas, they believe it was a comet that came in. But again, the Anunnaki saw what was coming, and they all evacuated the surface up in their ships and watched it from above. Which again, they go back to the Tower of Babel. Hey, look, mankind's united. They all have one common mind, and they're working together. Come, let us go down there and scatter them and confuse their languages. Pretty interesting stuff. I think there's an awful lot of clues, and that's why we can't just be in one system. We have to be like researching everything. And I know channels like WSO and BP and Rex, and Rex has covered just about everything you could think of. And it's just fascinating, but we need to keep putting these pieces together. And 3-day grace, I totally agree with you there, completely. I think that unfortunately is part of a much, much bigger plan going on. And, as I've shared with you guys, I have some videos up on my Patreon that we don't go through YouTube with, where we could talk about things like that kind of out in the open. And that's part of a much bigger plan, I feel. And Xenopec, you get it. Exactly. It's part of the whole control matrix, I feel. For one, dumbing us down, creating problems in the future health-wise, as well as perhaps inhibiting our ability to utilize all of our perceptive abilities, i.e., your third eye, which I think a lot of you guys we're all going through a lot of the same symptoms. How many of you guys have felt a lot of pressure in your head that seems to be coming right from the middle of your head? Pressure. And with me, when I'm going deeper into meditation, all of a sudden, it's almost like a screen flashing. It's like flickering, flashing, and then pictures come through, pictures, and you could see things. And often when there's more of these bigger kind of downloads, it's, there's a lot more pressure and a lot more of that uncomfortable feeling kind of in the middle of the head. And David talks about that. You see what David just said. Yeah, I mean, it's been found that is true. And more than that, it's, I forget what the term is now, but, that is being used as a flavor enhancer, which it does appear that it is actually, true. And it's almost hard to believe. So why did they do that? What are they trying to manifest there? It's kind of crazy.
I think my theory is it's a way to continue to lower our vibration, to make sure that we can't ascend. And that's just not a very nice thing, because if our vibration is high, we're going to make better decisions, we're going to make better choices, we're going to feel better, do better. And they don't want that. They want to keep us down. We're all having to work 8-10 hour days, and then we're exhausted. We can barely spend time with our family, our children, and keep us stressed out. And that's a really sick but good way of doing that, because in the end, they want to win. They're playing for keeps, and we can never forget that. That's just something that we have to know. Their job and their whole existence revolves around keeping us under control, and they will stop at nothing to do that. So on our end, I feel like we need to be the same way, stop at nothing to raise our vibration, watch our diet, eat the best we can, be grateful, be heart-centered, walk in love, and, that's how we fight back and keep doing what we're doing, like getting together with you guys and talk about these things, keep positive. Always take the high road. If you have a decision to make and you don't know what to do, just do the next right thing, and keep going on, because it is a battle. It is a war. And unfortunately, they know more than we do at this point.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different agendas going on too. I think like lower down the pyramid, they're given one level of understanding. As you go up and up and up the pyramid, there's different levels of understanding that are being, put out there as to the bigger reality. And as I mentioned before, it's fascinating to see how presidents react after their first meeting with the other president. And President Trump looked like he was just pale as a ghost. Like you were just told something that just made your knees knock and made your stomach get ready to hurl. And he's not the first one that's looked like that as well. It's kind of crazy, but at the same time, I don't think that even the names that we know, anybody that we know is not at the very top of the pyramid. When we're talking about, where does this really go? Ultimately, I do think it's an interdimensional thing as well as, as well as a 3D thing. And, we might not even really be in 3D anymore. A lot of people have different thoughts. There are people that say, hey, we're already in fourth density, or we went into fourth density a year ago, or we went into fourth density on December 21st, 2012. I know just from being an energy worker that, man, it's so easy now to manipulate energy. It's just cake. It's almost as if the energy body is way stronger and easier to use than the physical body at times. It's pretty wild. Yeah, 4D and 5D are presently merging. So many people have so many different takes on exactly where we are at, and perhaps people are at different places, and that's one of the things, because there are still people that can't even sense energy, and I find it's usually people that are a little bit older, of an older generation, that perhaps have been exposed to fluoride a longer period of time. Maybe just even their consciousness is at a different level, because when we talk about the kids coming in now, there are waves of kids coming in that are very advanced, and they could recognize right off the bat that they don't buy the system. They just don't buy the system. And some people will look at the kids as like, well, they're really lazy, they're not go-getters, they're not up and at 'em. But at the same time, perhaps they just recognize too that it's the whole system that we're in is complete BS, and it's all an illusion. So maybe they have a totally different set of priorities.
Yeah, they do. And what I've noticed with our kids growing up is, um, well, my daughter, for example, she knows somewhere in her heart that the schoolwork that she is doing is just kind of like a load of crap. So she's a little bit lazy when it comes to the schoolwork. On the other hand, if you put something in front of her that she cares about and loves, like she just loves animals, she likes to research things about animals who are going extinct, she's all over it. That's what I've noticed with the kids growing up, and the kids are going to be our future. We can learn so much from our children, and that's another thing I feel like the elites have taken from us is our time to spend with our kids, because a lot of they go to a classroom, and basically you have to hand your kid off to a bunch of adults that you don't really know where they come from or what they're doing and what their agenda is. And then they have us where we have to work these 50-hour weeks, 8-10 hours a day. So we can't be there and sit with our kids and teach them what we have learned. It needs to move back to more of a tribal like thing. And oh my gosh, I love this picture. This is a good one. Wow. How about that? It makes you wonder.
Yeah, isn't that a great one? I mean, because, like I've shared with you guys, I've seen a being like that up close and personal. And 3 fingers just like that, the same head, same thin, gangly body. I would say that from the elbow joint to the tip of the finger is like about the size of a large man's arm as far as the length. Interesting, what is the reality there, and whether we call that an extraterrestrial, interdimensional, or a demon, it's your choice, but they are real. It's there. They are there. I've seen them personally, as I've shared before. But it's so fascinating to see, just how convoluted everything is at so many different levels. I see there's a lot of talk in there about some different channels like Florida Marquee as well. I haven't watched them in a bit now. There's a lot of good channels out there that are giving us a lot of info. And everybody is different as far as their perspective, where they come from, and their background as well. But I found that fascinating. So let's see, where were we? And so this is Sunshine. Let's see here. No. Yeah, sccc.org. And I thought this was interesting too, because this gives you guys a clearer picture of what we were talking about. And counts per minute, CPM. So you can see the different levels, because a lot of the places were giving us readings over 300, very, very high readings. And we know the magnetosphere is in decline. There's a lot of cosmic rays coming in. And of course, with the sun being in a grand solar minimum, it's not shielding us like it normally would, because usually, we get natural shielding from the sun. So most definitely a cause for concern. And we need to be prepared as much as possible. And then we were looking at some of these photos here and talking about the beast and about comets and how maybe comets really are not what we think they are. And, maybe the sun is not what we think it is. Because so many people do believe that there is a sun simulator up there that's in front of the sun right now, as the sun has, some believe, like Dr. Gloria Albert's sun's basically pretty much almost dead. It's not giving off a lot. And so the sun simulator's up there in front and blocking it. And, here you go again. Now, one of the things that hit me also was the different levels of, extraterrestrial civilization. As we go up in technology, you're going to be able to control more things. So what if you have beings that are 2 million years ahead of us? 2 million years, which really, because there are some suns that are much older than our sun, it really isn't saying a lot. It's not really kind of, going way out on the limb to assume that there might be civilizations that are a couple million years ahead of us. And perhaps they could move entire solar systems at will. Dyson sphere, right? Think about those type of things. It's fascinating. So, maybe we are living in a realm that is, basically being completely manipulated by these beings. And so, the thought of a Dyson sphere, it's something that is built around the sun that can harness the energy of the sun, perhaps even move the sun into one location or another. And perhaps our whole idea of what exactly the sun is completely wrong. Maybe, what do you guys think about that as well?
Yeah, I think there's a lot more technology than we're led to believe. Like anything that they do clue us in on has probably already been perfected to the point where, then they just show us these little tidbits here and keep us in the dark, because that'll make sure that we're being good slaves and do what they want us to do. They just don't want to educate us on a lot of things. But I do like that Dyson sphere. That is very curious. And I these scientists say they can't quite figure out why this star is losing its light, but I have a feeling that they know. They know. That's why it's a little irritating to be held in the dark all the time, because I think that humanity can be helped a whole lot if we just knew where we came from. And that's probably a question that I'm always going to ask. Always going to search for answers, because I just know that I know that I know. If only I knew where I'm from, then I know where I'm going to go. So it's just really nice to connect with you guys. I just absolutely love it when we come on in the mornings. It's just, I know I'm not alone. Whenever I connect with you guys, I know that I'm good. Everything's fine. It's not really a nightmare. I do have friends and people that do love me, and I love you guys. This is why I love doing this.
Yeah, it's fascinating, and then putting all the world's legends and myths and everything together. It's very, very interesting. So we were talking about the Dyson sphere as well, and the different levels of civilization. So a Dyson sphere is a theoretical mega engineering project that encircles a star with platforms orbiting in a tight formation. Pretty interesting stuff. And, just the level of technology that could be out there is just incredible, really, when you think about it. And so, everybody has their own opinions, and a lot of it's based on your own personal experience. So one of the things to recognize is that everybody's reality is a little different. Basically, it's all subject to the conditioning that we received and what we've learned along the way. And as we've talked about before too, so many of the ancients, they had maybe a limited vocabulary in a lot of ways. And so they just didn't have the science, the technical knowledge to word things in perhaps more accurate terms. So, we're left with, perhaps a little bit of wanting as far as for a better explanation. Yet it's fascinating that when you look at these legends around the world, they really are pretty congruous. They really go together if we look at that. And even the Chinese had similar legends, especially like when it comes from kingship coming from on high, and the idea of almost like god kings, the same thing as Egypt, the same thing as we see in Sumeria and so many other locations as well. It's just so more than coincidental. There's no way it's a coincidence. There's way too much for it to be a coincidence. Yep, as Terry's charm says, everybody's perspective is different. Good morning. So I mean, what can we do? Obviously, we could be heart-centered, and that's, I think, the biggest challenge, because, if we are putting ourselves into the situation, and we're going to go through trying times as we see, and we'll take a look at some of the earth changes that are going on as well today. It's all about how we react to it, and how we show our love and our compassion for each other. That's really the bottom line. So even though we argue over minutia and we argue over different words, different terms, we shouldn't lose our higher vibrations in those arguments. We shouldn't allow those disagreements to pull us down into a lower vibrational frequency. And Sherry is talking about dragons, and it was interesting because Steve, check out Steve's video on this as well, because he's showing a lot of different paintings, and there's woodcuts as well. Dragons. What do these dragons mean? And then we see the dragon from Mother Shipton, as well. And, the Chinese, of course, have a lot of legends of dragons as well. And, some are benevolent and some are malevolent. Just like what we kind of saw when we were looking into the Nagas and the legends of the Nagas. It's very interesting stuff. And sometimes people feel, obviously, completely convinced, as if I know the answer totally. I have the truth. I completely have the truth. I am 100% positively sure. And I don't think we could really be that way, besides knowing that, what we need to do is stay heart-centered. Steve is wonderful as well, and like always saying, hey, I'm open to change my mind on things as new info comes in. And I think we should kind of have that type of outlook, because a full cup has no more room for anything else.
Right. Yeah, and it's another thing is I'm learning to be a little more like water. Sometimes you're faced with situations and you can't necessarily just plow right through them, so you have to be a little more fluid and go around, under, over, find a different way through. But one thing we don't want to do is get angry, and we don't want to lash out at each other. We just want to keep helping each other find those ways, just like water would. I have this thing for water. I really like water. But yeah, and this is one way to not get frustrated, is to come on here with you guys and feel your guys' love. And I totally appreciate you guys. And we can all look at these pictures and signs, and we can all kind of know where the other is coming from, but with a different perspective, because with more perspectives, we get more information. Like we're looking at a problem here, just my perspective isn't going to help a whole bunch, but boy, I have like 200 other people's perspectives, and that's going to give us more of a whole picture. And that's just really helpful for me.
Yeah, I just so love this one in particular, because as we see here, the Holy Spirit as the dove is going into her crown chakra, beaming down from a UFO in a cloud, or we could just say that's source, but here we see, Archangel Gabriel, signified by the wings, talking as a person to a person as well. It's just fascinating stuff. It really is fascinating. It's interesting. I love that type of stuff. And again, that's from like 1500. So very curious, to say the least. And I always forget the name of what it is. As far as like the Kardashev scale, that's what I'm talking about. The Kardashev scale as well. The different types of civilizations. You know, and Michio Kaku, which maybe he is part of the control grid. You know, as we have to wonder with anybody that gets, you know, kind of high up and is well known, as we've seen so much through everything. You know, there's 33rd degree level Masons everywhere, and they control our reality, as we talked about with Darwinian evolution. And so, you know, he was another 33rd degree. So we see, you know, Charles Darwin controlling, you know, our minds, you know, what he put out there about evolution. And perhaps he wasn't, you know, correct completely. It doesn't mean that evolution doesn't exist, because everything changes, everything evolves. Everything is energy. Energy can't be created or destroyed. It just changes form. So this Nikolai Kardashev, who was looking for signs of extraterrestrial life with cosmic signals, talked about different levels of civilization and what they could do. And we're thought to be at like 0.7. We're thought to be at 0.7 of a type 1. And that's a species that's able to harness all the energy that's available from a neighboring star, gathering and storing it to meet the energy demands of a growing population. So you could harness the energy of the planet and start to control the weather, things like that. You know, I think we're a lot farther along than what people realize. But then I also think, you know, when you look at it, there's so many people that have come out, and a lot of them are past big time government officials, people in the military, and they've talked about the interaction with ETs and interdimensionals that we've had. And perhaps this is what's always been there. I don't buy that it all happened with a meeting with Eisenhower and the little Greys back in the 40s. I think these other influences have always been there, and probably predate us. It definitely predate Homo sapiens sapiens. That's just my personal opinion after all the studying I have done. And obviously they are going to be of a much higher kind of civilization and technology, especially when at will they could basically shift their vibrational frequency and pop in and out of our reality. But there are some yogis that can do that as well, if we look at some of the legends there as well. And obviously, you know, there's been some amazingly advanced beings and great teachers on this planet. So then it gets into the type 2 civilization, which may make something like a Dyson sphere to really actually start to truly harness the energy of a sun. And then you get to type 3, where they are truly galactic transversers. They have a knowledge of everything having to do with energy. They become a master race in terms of humans, hundreds of thousands of years of evolution ahead of us. And then, you know, even talking about them becoming cyborgs, the singularity that, you know, we see some factions trying to push on us. And would develop colonies of robots that are capable of self-replication. Look what's up in the sky. You know, I'm going to do a video on Foo Fighters, just Foo Fighters themselves. There are so many of these little orbs in the sky. I just tons of them. I think there's millions of them, probably up there all the time. And maybe we just, you know, we're not aware of them. But now, because our cameras are better, because we could slow things down so much and analyze, we see they're all around us all the time. And then you have a type 4 civilization as well, you know, and, you know, what would that look like? Well, maybe, you know, maybe they're here right now, and maybe they're the ones that are controlling the Truman Show.
Yeah, they could very well be. And I saw Lisa in here. She wrote she just wishes everyone around her would wake up. And oh my gosh, I couldn't agree with you more. What I've done on my path is, you know, kind of I had to go within. I had to go deep within, and knowing that it's just I control. I'm in charge of my own ship, and having to reach out, which has been a blessing, and find people like you guys to be with, because our families, they're in this world, and that's how it is for them right now. But if we can provide a good example of, how we are, how we're doing, they're going to look at us and they're going to wonder, well, what do they have? Maybe I want what they got, and then maybe they'll do what we do. So it starts with you, it starts within. But yeah, I think there is so much going on in the controlling aspect of things, and the only thing we can really control is ourselves at this point.
Right. So yeah, Chris is saying, how can unadvanced write about what an advanced civilization would be? Again, it's kind of like sci-fi and conjecture, but as we've seen, before countless times, what's thought up in sci-fi often becomes reality. And Mars Fugold says Truman shows subliminal for a flat Earth. There is a line of thought that this is all just simply a hologram. It's a holographic universe, and that reality is actually, two-dimensional, so to speak. And so from that point of view, I could agree with it. But then we also see the matrix itself, and we see that as above, so below. And, I think there's so many things that kind of go together there that show me that it's not kind of that way as well. So there's where is Charles Xavier right now? I don't know. Pretty interesting. Thoughts do become reality, as Sherry says, most definitely, and we can manifest amazing things. Yeah, Terry's talking about humans absolutely merging with AI. We don't even know what's inside our own bodies right now. And, well, as I get that, I get a little buzzing in the middle of my head there. That was interesting. That happens far too often, and I don't know if it's an implant or if it's my third eye. But that does happen too often. And as I shared with you guys, in December 2017, I woke to very much that type of being that we were talking about, about 8 to 9 foot tall, 3-fingered, tall gray, tall white. I've seen people classify them in different ways. And as it happened in the morning, there was just a little bit of soreness on the back of my head on the left side, and there was a pinprick of blood on the pillow. So, who knows, how many of us maybe have implants? How many of you guys think that you might have an implant that you don't know of? And then, of course, there's all the nanotech as well that's out there. But I believe in ascension. I do think that we're changing. I think we're waking up. And honestly, like the other day, I was feeling a little bit off, and I just went in the morning, laid out in the sun. It was like 70 something. It's gorgeous. And after absorbing some of the solar prana, which I know a lot of people would be afraid of, hey, I felt so much better, so much better. I don't fear the sun, and I personally think that this is part of the greater plan that's coming from very, very high up. I think that the cosmic rays are perhaps coming from what we might call, God, prime creator, source, our higher self. I do think that's part of the bigger plan. I do think that fear of the sun is something that, the darker energies have put in there, because they know that our DNA is going to change. They know that we are going to change. And if we are able to absorb it in, and knowingly absorb it in with the intention that's going to be a positive, not a negative, that it will help us in our ascension.
And, that goes back to taking our own power back is really, really important. And there's certain things that people do still need a MD for. And, they're necessary. Everything has its place. But I'm really all about trying to empower myself at this point. And, we exercise quite a lot. We eat really good. And, I go to plant medicine if I need any medicine. It's pretty rare that I even take an aspirin nowadays, when before, oh my gosh, I was on all kinds of medications. I ate anything out of a box or a wrapper. And I know now, looking back, how much that really damaged my vibration and lowered my vibration. And now I wouldn't even dare to eat a candy bar. I can't believe I just said that. Even I wouldn't dare. Nobody could pay me enough money, because I know how much it lowers my vibration. And I think that's our best way to make sure that we ascend, is to take good care of ourselves, raise your vibration, take your power back, be your own guru. I mean, be sovereign. Just, take care of yourself. Go within. It's so worth it. It's so, so worth it.
Mayberry by the Sea. That sounds really nice, Susan. Yeah, it's all pretty wild, but it's all about consciousness, is what I feel too. And I don't have any desire. I can't eat anything like that. There's no way I could eat a Snickers bar. There's no way I could eat any of those things anymore. I just couldn't do it. It's totally unappealing. And, we have an Indian buffet we go to maybe once every week or two. And yet at the same time, every time we eat there, we always get kind of stuffed up and sniffly and phlegmy. And it's because everything we're eating is organic. And a lot of the restaurants, they're not using organic. Hardly any of the restaurants are using organic, unless they're, specializing in that. And so, it's just the quality of the food. And as you get cleaner, as you're, eating cleaner, living cleaner, you won't find it appealing, for one, things that are very, very toxic by nature, refined sugars, being one of the top ones, not really good for the body at all. As we said, that food pyramid is so messed up, and it caused so many problems for so many people. Yeah, exactly. MSG, most definitely. It's like I don't miss the taste of candy or any of those things, not even remotely. So when I eat, like we actually have so many pomegranate trees in the area, and literally have probably 20 pomegranates or more, and we've been working on that in our fruit bowl right now. To me, that's sweet. To me, if you eat a strawberry, just a regular organic strawberry, it's like, boom, so sweet, because just don't eat anything. I don't add sugar to anything. And we have honey, but I don't even, for myself, I never add honey. If I was to make something that you needed sugar of some sort in there, I would probably use honey or agave. But, you get used to it, and then you actually are tasting the real taste of how something really tastes. And, sugar to me is just, it feels toxic. I just can't do it anymore. And it's good, because, I feel way better. And when I see like little kids and their parents are giving them Fruit Loops, or giving them, the GMO stuff, it's horrible. GMO bread, oh God, what it does to your body, it's horrible. Watch the wheat. The GMO wheat is horrible. GMO corn as well, just horrible for your body. And so as you get cleaner, you just feel better. And you notice, you don't really have allergies. You don't really have all those issues that so many people do. Yeah, India's smog situation is atrocious. And, Indian food is my favorite food. And then probably Thai food next, and then maybe Mexican. But yeah, it's all about getting clean. And, if you can't fool the kids, if the kids are used to real, their Fruit Loops and things like that, there are some out there that are better alternatives. I think it's Cascadian Farms is somewhat better. There's other brands as well, try to get them off of. Dave's bread is good stuff. Have you guys ever had Dave's bread? And then, of course, there's some that come in the frozen section. Is it Tree of Life? I'm trying to think.
Yeah,
Garden.
maybe.
I forget.
Not
Garden of
sure.
Life. There's a frozen section one where it's all sprouted as well. But I do love bread too, and I keep meaning to make some from scratch. I love to cook, so I did do a couple cooking videos way back. But yeah, that's part of our. There you go. Thank you. Ezekiel bread. That's what I was thinking of. Ezekiel's wheels. Yes, Ezekiel bread is healthier. Um, and I do plan on us doing a lot more like cooking type shows, and we're going to be doing a lot more working out videos. Some of the first ones I ever did were exercise videos, and I want to share with you guys, what we're doing as well. Dave's bread is pretty damn yum. It is actually really pretty good. Tastes great. Once you have that, all the other ones that are mass marketed, besides getting something that is done at a bakery, or if you did it yourself, they just don't taste as good. But I like to kind of not have a lot of wheat, period. It's just part of my chemistry. So we mostly just, focus on veggies primarily, and fruits as well. And then we kind of cycle between other things. But yeah, GMOs, the spraying, the poison, like Marla's touching on all these things. They've been infiltrating our bodies for so long. Everything keeps building up. Wolf is talking about even protein powders and supplements. Yeah, I mean, that was shocking to me when I, found that other site that did testing on it, and some of the top names were not that good. But then, you got to look at who they are as well, and wonder if, there's agendas everywhere. There's agendas everywhere. Terry's Charm says hasn't been sick in 20 years. That's beautiful. And we really can do that. I find that the people that are the sickest are the people that are in, they're right along with the main. Well, they go to their doctor regularly. They go and they get their prescriptions regularly. They just follow allopathic medicine. And those, to me, those are the people that tend to be the sickest. And as I've shared with you guys, like my sister's been a nurse for over 30 years. She gets the flu shot every year. It's just, she has to, because, it's mandated. And she gets sick all the time. She's had the flu more times I could count. It's just one thing after another, and it's sad, but everybody makes their own choices with this. It's all up to each one of us to make our own choices. But yeah, exactly, Dawn. Exactly. Yeah, that's very much true. I think there's different levels to it. I think that's one of the main levels there. And Sherry sends a heart out for the nurses. Yeah, I've known a ton of nurses in my time as well. And again, even with the mainstream medical doctors too, so many of them go in with the best intention, and then they recognize things, and maybe they want to do things different, but the system is so strong. That's why I would always go towards a naturopathic doctor. First and foremost, I just believe in looking at things holistically. So yeah, if there was ever an issue, like when I got Lyme's disease, I went to a naturopath, and she was a doctor of traditional Chinese medicine. She did acupuncture. She recommended herbs for me. She modified my diet for me, and it worked. Got better, and actually ended up feeling better than I ever did.
Yeah, I agree. If I'd have only known about all the different natural ways to do things when I was younger, I would not have gotten caught up in the trap that I did with the doctors and the prescriptions. And I think on some level that they know we were going to have these ascension symptoms. And I think there's CIA documents going back to the 80s where they knew we would become more psychic and we would have these symptoms. And if you watch the TV on the commercials, pretty soon there's a pill for every ache. There's a pill for every complaint. There's a pill for every symptom. And I think that's one of their ways to help catch us in a net of lies and bullshit, what they peddle. there's nothing wrong with us. We're having these ascension symptoms. I think as close to natural as you can possibly go is the best idea. Go to a doctor if you're dying or something. But if I'd have only known the treatments, the natural treatments there were for depression, if I'd have only known that the problems I was having was because of ascension, I would have done things so differently. But then again, I wouldn't be here to talk with you guys. I might not be here to share my experience. If I can help one person, then everything I've done is worth it. And I'll do it again and again and again, just to help one person not go through as much hell as I did.
Most definitely. It's very, very worth it. So I want to thank you guys for joining me. I had some people saying, "Oh, you're going too long. Try to keep it, an hour or under," because we've been going, like an hour and 40 a lot of times. But it's easy when we get talking. We'll try to stay consistent with this time frame, and then maybe even like coming back later on at night, and going from there. So we'll see how that goes. But I do want to welcome everybody that's so inclined to come join us over on Patreon. For just $1 a month, you can see some videos that don't go up on YouTube, and also support the family. And then also, or you could go and join us over on Ko-Fi as well. And also make sure you're subscribed to the second channel, EE Arts, which is growing, and it's beautiful over there as well. It's very, very positive. We don't really go into the earth changes at all over there. So we just try to stay on a positive frame of mind over there for the most part. And it's a wonderful feel over there as well. So I want to thank everybody for joining us again. And as always, my friends, keep your eyes open, stay prepared. God bless, and namaste.
Namaste, you guys.